Welcome to another handy lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory, which is one of the most important theories if you want to take the CENEVAL exam for EGAL EIN, Licenciatura en enseñanza del inglés. So, let's go to it. This is Jean Piaget, and his theory is called cognitive development theory. We're going to go through different topics. We're going to see what is cognition, what is cognitive development, the key concepts of cognitive development theory, and the 4 stages of the cognitive development theory by Jean Piaget. So let us start by saying, what is cognition? The term cognition is derived from the Latin word cognoscere, which means to know, to recognize, or to conceptualize. It is the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Basically, all of this is called cognition. Then what is the cognitive development theory? The cognitive development is the emergence or the ability to think and understand, to grow in the cognition as our lives go on, as our lives happen. So as we grow, our brain is growing, our experiences, knowledge, understanding, and all the information that we receive is growing. Therefore, our cognition is developing. And through our biological stages, we will also have a cognitive development. This is called cognitive development theory. Now, there are some key concepts we must understand. The first concept is called schema. Schema is everything that we conceptualize when we receive information. Since the moment we're born, we are receiving information, and our brain is taking the most important of that information, creating a concept and putting it into our mind, memory, and creating a whole image and concept about something specific. This is called a schema. It's an internal representation of the world. It helps an individual to understand the world they inhabit. Then, for example, let's imagine that a baby is presented with a cross. The beginning, he sees a cross, all right? Later on, okay, we're going to have something that is called assimilation. Assimilation uses an existing schema, something that is already in our mind, to deal with a new object or situation. So the learner or the individual fits the new idea into something that already existed. Let's talk about that cross that the baby was shown. The next, he's going to be shown a sword. So all he has to do is to invert the image of the cross to have a sword. What he is doing is that he is assimilating a new concept. Okay, in the beginning he saw a cross only, just a cross. But then, through the time, somebody showed him a sword. So he used his existing schema about the cross and he transformed it, turning it around into a sword. Okay, that is called assimilation, using existing information to transform it into new information. And then we have accommodation. That happens when the schema, the existing schema, doesn't work with something that is something new that is presented to us. So we need to deal with a new situation or a new object. Let's imagine the same baby. He saw a cross, then he assimilated it into a sword, but now he is presented with a gun. So the gun has nothing to do with the sword, even though they are both weapons, but their image and their resemblance has nothing to do. So this is something new, and he has to accommodate the new knowledge into the previous knowledge and create more information. That is called accommodation. Then we have something that is called equilibration, and the equilibration is maintaining the balance between assimilation and accommodation. So we have an equilibrium as we are growing. We have an equilibrium of information in our brain that is constantly growing, and that is going to allow us to go on to the next cognitive stage, which, by the way, is our next slide. We have the 4 stages of cognitive development. The first stage is called the sensory motor stage, which is also called infancy. It goes from birth to 2 years old. The next stage is the pre-operational stage, which is also called early childhood and belongs to toddlers. It goes from 2 to 7 years old. The next stage is called concrete operational. It is also called adolescence. Okay, childhood and early adolescence. It goes from 7 to 12 years of age. And finally, according to Piaget, the last cognitive development stage will be formal operational, which goes from 12 years old and above. And it is also known as adolescence and adulthood. Now, there are some specific characteristics, and if you wanted to know more, because each one of these stages has specific traits, if you wanted to know more, you can do your own research on every single one of these stages. Also, in the description, you will see in the final slide, you will see references for more information about it. So let's talk about the sensory motor stage. So during this stage, infants construct an understanding of the world by coordinating sensory experiences. Whenever you see a baby and you put your finger to his hand, he's going to grab it because he is recognizing through his sense of touch. The babies also will take any object to their mouth because they want to know, they want to learn by tasting. They're going to smell and they're going to see. Something important during this stage is that whatever is visible, whatever is there in front of them, exists. But in the moment that they cannot see something, that something just disappears, and that is why the peekaboo game is so famous among babies. We have something else, the next stage, which is called pre-operational. Okay, the stage begins when the child starts to use symbols and language. At this stage, the toddler starts using words to communicate and is capable of more complex mental representations like, for example, he is able to understand what a toy is, what a bear is, to recognize an animal, to recognize symbols, to recognize sounds. So at this stage, the toddler is basically able to communicate in a verbal way. The next stage will go concrete operational. It is childhood and early adolescence. Okay, at this moment of life, early adolescence starts to use logic in a better way. The ability to sort objects in the early moment of this stage, the children are able to sort, to differentiate, to organize object into different items like size, shape, amount, color. So they are able to sort them out. All right. So that is one of the characteristics of the concrete operational stage. And then we go on to adolescence, in which the individual is going to be able to understand more abstract concepts. He's going to start thinking about future, and he's going to know that nothing is absolute, that everything is relative, meaning that there are always some perceptions and some characteristics and some background about anything. So he has to consider all the different perspectives and situations in order to come up with one conviction. It is also the moment when individuals come to create their convictions about life, about religion, about justice, about moral, about ethics. Okay? And finally, we have the reference guide if you want to know more about the topic. So thank you very much. This was the handy lesson about cognitive development theory by Jean Piaget. See you in the next lesson.